has an agenda, has things to do.
I have an agenda, yeah.
Okay, the first item on the agenda has got to be minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions, concerns about the agenda?
Move to approve.
My name is misspelled in the very top.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, I read them. Everything else looks good.
Okay. I'll change that. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb.
Move.
Mhm.
Was that a second? With
Yes.
corrections. All in favor? There's the agenda.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the next item, is that where, Mike, where we wanted to move things?
Yeah, if we go to item B of new business and then item B of old business so that Dean can get out of here and enjoy his daughter's birthday.
Oh,
Thanks, guys. She's very excited to do her birthday stuff, and I'm holding her up. So actually, I'm not the only one, but
not a problem.
all right. So this item is talking about discussion and possible action on projects for potential federal stimulus money. And so you probably remember kind of at the end of last month's meeting, I had kind of teased that we might be talking about this at this month's meeting. Because of the change in administration and kind of how the messaging that's been going on with priorities for the new federal administration and COVID relief and all that kind of thing, it seems like a federal infrastructure stimulus is more likely now than ever to be happening at some point in the near future. And I felt that it'd be worth us talking about some potential projects that we could get on the shelf for when that time comes, so whether it's this summer or next year or whenever. Projects that are quote unquote shovel ready, so essentially they'd be ready to go if and when the funding comes available. So use the following criteria to identify potential projects. We have them located on arterial streets. Usually federal money is kind of limited to those types of streets. Projects that would require minimal time to design and funding to design, so we could get to it sooner rather than later. Projects that wouldn't require additional right-of-way because that takes time and money to do, and then projects that would allow us to address poor pavement ratings on our arterial streets without adding significant amounts of new infrastructure. And I know you guys all know why I added that bullet down there. So so kind of with all that together, staff put our heads together to identify a few projects. They're not in order of preference by staff at all. I don't know, this is how it ended up. So just for what it's worth. The first one that we identified is Carmichael Road from Interstate 94 to Riverview Drive. That's option 1 on your attachments for this item. So what this project would entail would be mill, so taking off top layer pavement, under seal, which is a seal coat on top of that, and then an overlay of pavement on top of that. And what that does is it significantly reduces the amount of cracks that come back through the new layer of pavement. Essentially, if you drive on like Stage Line Road that we just known overlaid last year, you can see there's a fair amount of the cracks that are coming back through. And for roads that are in poorer shape, when you mill and overlay, those cracks do tend to come back through. So we don't want that on Carmichael Road, and there's a significant amount of cracking there already. So with the project, we replace pedestrian ramps to make them ADA compliant, replace the asphalt trail on the west side and extend to meet the trail along Lee property and along Stage Line Road to Center Drive to connect some dots with the trail system that's missing right now. Yeah, some, just the stuff associated with that. So that's project number 1. Number 2 would be Stage Line Road from Coach Light Drive the west intersection of Coach Lake Drive to Darnold Drive. And what that would entail, if we drive out there right now, there's a section of road that's really just like a freeway essentially through that neighborhood over there. It's 5 lanes wide, 4 travel lanes and 1 turn lane essentially. So we would propose to eliminate 2 of the lanes that are unneeded for traffic capacity on the south side and replace the curb on the south side and add a trail to better connect the neighborhood with pedestrian access and bike access. We'd also propose to add crossing medians too for people trying to cross Stage Line Road. And then for the rest of the pavement, we mill and overlay that. Third project is Cooley Road from 2nd to 11th. That would entail a mill and overlay, replace pedestrian ramps, upgrade the sidewalk on the north side to a 10-foot trail, and reduce the road width to make that trail fit. And then add a pedestrian crossing at Burkmost Park so that people can actually walk to the park, because right now there's no real connection to get from the sidewalk that's on the north side to the park itself. Fourth project is 9th Street from St. Croix to Vine. And the proposed project would do a mill under steel and overlay, replace pedestrian ramps. There's a lot of them on this corridor. And then adds some potential permanent speed calming measures. You probably remember us talking about some more temporary ones on 9th Street to help calm traffic down there. We would look to maybe do some permanent ones with the project there. And the last one would be Vine Street from Wisconsin to east of Diamond Drive, essentially completing Vine Street, so to speak. So it would be a mill and overlay, replace pedestrian ramps, replace the asphalt trail, and move it away from the curb wherever possible, and add pedestrian medians at Spruce, Grandview, and Diamond. Those were part of that Safe Routes to School grant that we tried to get last year. So we'd look to do that with this project as well. So with these 5 projects, kind of what we're looking for from you guys is to talk about, first, are these projects ones to generally pursue, whether we know we have funding or not? Secondly, are there any scope changes, any tweaks to make these projects better? I think it'd be fun or interesting to maybe rank the projects from top to not top. And then, should staff pursue any design activities on behalf of any of these projects, we'd have to identify funding for the surveys necessary. So yeah, it's a little bit open-ended, but I wanted to have some discussion on that for hopefully maybe being successful in the future with any funding that becomes available. I'm not sure how to facilitate this discussion, I guess, since there's a few different questions there, but I guess maybe first I can just go through this bullet list and you guys can peck them off, and I'll just keep going down the list. So first of all, are these projects ones that we should generally pursue for the future?
Well, personally, I think we've all, several of these projects have been identified that we need anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about these before. It'd be great if we can get some funding for them. So I think absolutely these are good projects to pursue. And obviously, I think you've given a lot of thought. So I wouldn't have any that I'd want to replace this list, any one of these on this list. So if the other 2 committee members are good with these 5, I am.
Yeah, Dean, I drove them this weekend because I wanted to get a real sense of what is the experience from a driving standpoint, and they all need help. I mean, there was just, I think you identified, the arteries. It sounds like for the federal money, they got to be major arteries, right? So
generally,
you're limited in what you can do. But I thought that was great. I really like the idea of some of the, you were talking about the speed calming measures on 9th Street. There was one of the things, sorry, I forgot what else I was going to say. Oh, some of the pedestrian medians too. And also trying to cross on Cooley to Burkmost, a better way to do that. So I think there's a lot that's really well thought out. And some of that widening that path on Cooley, I think, that sidewalk, sorry. So yeah, I think they're really good. I don't know how to rank them. I'll be honest with you. I think they all need help. So I don't know how we rank these, but maybe that's when the actual money comes out, we revisit these 5 or something like that, and try to figure out based on the money, maybe, you know, do we do 3 of them or 2 of them, or like based on what's out there, maybe that would help us at that point. But I'd have a hard time ranking them tonight because I just think they all need a lot of work.
So would it make sense to ask you at this point, with your experience, do you have any sense of, could we rank them in terms of dollar amounts needed? I don't, because we don't know when monies do become available, how much that would be, or how much we might have to pay back over time, right? We just don't know any of the stipulations of the of the money. So knowing if just based on your experience, you could rank them for us in terms of overall dollar size, I think we might be able to have a better handle to maybe give some direction to you.
Sure. Yeah. I don't have numbers right now, I guess, for each of these, but
Well, obviously,
I could give you the comparison probably. Just in my opinion, I think Carmichael Road's going to be the most expensive one, just because of how much pavement surface and, you know, trail replacement type stuff is involved with that project. However, it's kind of one of those things, like, we really don't want that road to go to crap, so to speak, because that's going to be really expensive to do, you know, have to replace pavement and all that kind of stuff on.
Could I ask a question about that? Number 1.
Yeah.
It talks about replace asphalt trail and extend along stage line road to Center Drive and along Carmichael Road. That's becomes on the south side of 94, right? Stage line.
Yeah. So the entire project in Carmichael will be south of 94 from 94 down to Riverview Drive.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 2 extensions would be that little section, kind of stage line road from Carmichael to Center, because right now there's a trail on Carmichael and Crestview, and there's a sidewalk along Stage Line Road by the hospital, but there isn't anything connecting the 2 there. So that would be the connection I propose to make there. And then the other extension part would be down by Albert Street, between Albert and essentially Mayor, kind of coming up that hill. From the trail ends right now at Albert Street, and so propose to kind of bring that trail to connect to the new trail that's along the Lee property, to kind of make that connection a complete one, so more people can use it as a continuous route.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was looking for here was where does it connect us to pieces that we're already working on? And that's the thing I'm looking about. Vine Street improves that connection quite a bit and enhances the pedestrian area. And since I'm in that area, I see a lot. There's been just a tremendous increase in pedestrian traffic all in that whole area, the new development and up and down the Vine Street. So I have a bias, and can we connect something else to make the whole thing better, or just so we have we've got 1.5 miles instead of 1.25 miles. That's, or safety involved to increase the usability, which I kind of like about that one. The other thing on Stage Line Road out there, we happen to dog sit out there, and trying to cross Stage Line with a dog to walk the paths over on the other side is scary. That's about 6 lanes wide at that point, and the traffic is not going 35 miles an hour like the speed limit is. They're coming from the east, they're running 55 miles an hour. So it's that area really could use some safety improvements. Is there a way of looking at accidents or anything that would help justify that, or is it? I've never seen anything, but it's a lot of close calls.
Yeah, we could certainly look up the crash data, and I probably should have thought of that earlier. I can totally see that happening on that stretch of Stage Line, just because it's so wide open, and the traffic volumes there, I believe, are like 6,000 vehicles per day or something like that, and that's about half as much as you would maybe consider going to a 4-lane road at that. So like 15,000 is kind of the volume that you might think about upgrading to a 4-lane facility. So the volumes there are low comparative to other 4-lane facilities, and so removing some capacity there wouldn't hurt anything in my mind, and would help a lot.
And if we ever close exit 2, that road's going to take a good share of the volume that's coming through there. So it would be nice to have the safety improvements built into that.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Sarah's question real quick, I believe that 9th Street probably would be the lowest cost project, just because of the width of the pavement there. It's not as wide, and it's 6 blocks or so long. And we aren't replacing an entire like sidewalk or trail or something with it, just be ramps at corners. So my hunch, I guess, would be that one would be the least expensive. It also has a pavement, I can tell you that too.
Yeah. And we've talked about 9th Street for the speed calming. Mm-hmm. We talked about that last year and didn't. Yeah. The weather got in the way, but
what might dictate what might dictate which project we ultimately go with is what is going to be the federal requirements for the project. Does it have to meet a certain dollar amount threshold? Does it have to be a $1 million plus project to qualify, so on and so forth? So that's one thing to consider too, as we're kind of picking these projects, is because there is some, I don't know how much lead time, turnaround time we would need. So basically what happens is, like Dean said, we're trying to identify some projects that can be in our back pocket for, at the ready, so that we can apply for a grant, right? Needs to go in these on the front end in order to kind of make them ready. So let's just say the federal government says, you have until July 1st to apply. I mean, is that a long enough window, Dean, for us to go out and get the approvals for the topographical work and design work, and then apply for the grant? I mean, how much lead time do we need, or do we need to make a decision tonight as far as which project to go for?
Yeah, you bring some good points. First of all, from what I've read, I don't think that July 1st is probably the earliest that they would have some sort of deadline for this stuff, just because it takes time to build a funding, plan.
That was just an example. That was just an example of a date. I picked it out of thin air.
Yeah, I know, you're good. It would probably take, by the time we have the topo survey done, it would probably take about a month to design and get plans together for projects like these. So if we did say we talked here tonight, rolls into next month, talking more about it, and maybe approving some funding for topo survey in April or May. They go do the survey in May or June, and that might be a little bit conservative for an estimate of time. I think we wouldn't have to take action on it tonight, but I think we probably would want to in the next couple months to get the ball rolling on whichever projects we choose to move forward with. And hoping that in a month's time from now, that there would be a little bit more guidance as to what this stuff is going to look like. But I wanted to make sure that we started talking about it sooner rather than later, so that we're on the right track for projects that we're pursuing for the future. So,
and Dean,
so I guess,
sorry, what I was gonna say is if there's a timing thing, like when it comes out or whatnot, I'm happy to do an extra meeting too. If there's a timing issue, we need to get together to look at it. So.
Great.
Agreed.
So for my 2 cents, I would say, knowing, just having in your head the relative price ranges of each project is going to be important. I think adding that safety issue that Jim talked about is a really good one, looking at, you know, have we had problems at any of these places? And, you know, then you've already taken into account the current road conditions. You know, we want to just, you know, if there's only a small little bit available, we want to get the biggest, you know, bang for our buck based on those needs. And how much do these surveys cost if we invest in, you know, 2 or 3 of these projects to that level, and then find out we're only going to get, you know, 1 or 2? How much have we, you know, wasted? Or
right? Yeah, good point. We did talk to our friends at Bolton and Mink about what kind of a conservative yet realistic estimate for doing the topo survey on these projects, and if we did all 5, it'd be about 50 grand. Now, if we didn't have 50 grand, you know, they split it up into what they thought for each project. So if we knew we only had, you know, 25 or something, we could do 3 of them pretty easily, I think. But yeah, that was kind of what they thought. It was about 50 grand for all 5. So,
and also really, you know, how many people are using these streets and how many people would benefit. I really think that Hanley, the stage line, that one could be pretty important, as Jim pointed out, as we're going to need that when the when the exit Carmichael gets done. So I guess, you know, the number of people benefiting from each project is another factor to kind of consider, to prioritize. It'd be awesome to do all of them.
We could do some traffic counts, Dean, and get some ADT here over the next month or 2.
Yeah, we can get some more background information too to talk about in April. Does that sound like a good kind of next step, is to get a little bit more information, and maybe next month we'll reconvene and talk some more about it?
Deb or anyone, do you know when the next meeting is?
What did we decide on that one?
Yeah. We decided April 5th, the night before the election.
I saw that there and said, that must be a mistake. And I moved it, and then I said, oh, that's the election.
So we'd still have you there.
Yeah, I was wondering, will I still be here? I hope so.
Yeah, we already talked that you would be here for that meeting, Sarah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we're sticking with the 5th.
Yeah, because council moved back to the following Monday.
Cool. Well, I think this conversation has been good for what I was looking for, to get some more information, and I'm happy to hear you guys are supportive of all the things that we think we're supportive of. So that's always a good sign that we're on the same page. So we'll get some more information, and hopefully can move forward in the next month or 2.
A good job identifying those, Dean. I think they're all in need of work, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, so now Jim, go to old business, item B.
All right. Item B, that must be Dean again.
Yeah, so this is a discussion of possible action to approve the 2021 street maintenance program and authorize staff to proceed with the advertisement for bids. So this proposed project would be essentially crack filling, seal coating a bunch of streets that we've identified. Mike and I have identified these streets based on kind of where they're at in the pavement rating process. There's a couple of these that are a lot more preventative maintenance, like 8th Street, north of Wisconsin, and crack filling Vine Street, that we want to spend as little money as possible, but get the longevity out of those projects. And then some of the other ones, like Crestview Drive and Gateway and that kind of thing, would be more, they're at about 5 or so pacer rating. So adding a seal coat, bring it up to a 7 and slow down the deterioration process. So that's kind of how we identify these projects. We do have $350,000 identified in the CIP for 2021 for this project. Additionally, we were we had about $50,000 left over from last year's project that was being carried over to fund the remaining portion of this project. It's always nice when you have more money left over than you expected, so we could do more with it. And so the streets that we've identified for maintenance activities in 2021 would be 8th Street north of Wisconsin. That's by the water tower. That'd be the seal coat. Carmichael Road from Vine Street to the North City limits past the middle school would be a crack fill only. Center Drive from Gateway to Carmichael would be a crack fill and seal coat. Same thing with Gateway Boulevard and Gateway Court. And Crestview Drive, Mike's crews have been filling up the cracks there already, so we just need a seal coat, no crack fill with that one. Hanley Road from Hagen to O'Keefe, crack fill and seal coat. And then Vine Street from 1st to 9th, that was reconstructed in 2016. It's ready for its first crack fill. That's held up pretty well over time. We want to make sure it keeps on holding up. I guess the plans and cost estimate are attached. I don't know if you guys had any questions or concerns about anything that was attached, but yeah, we'll open up for discussion.
So one thing I wanted to just add real quick before you guys discuss on this is we talked about, these are pretty similar to what we brought forward a couple of months ago that you had a chance to review and you approved it at that time. And then Dean went out and started putting together the plans for it. The one change that you'll note, I think, we had identified doing some crack filling on Carmichael. After we met with Farner and looked at that site, there's just too many cracks, and there's other opportunities to pursue there in the future that we don't want to throw our money away at it, just throwing tar at that road. We want to do something that's going to be a little more longer term. So instead of doing the crack filling on Carmichael, say from Crestview Drive intersection down to Hanley Road intersection, we took those dollars and put it towards the Hanley Road seal coat. So we're trying to kind of make that loop connection. So last year we did Hagen Street. This year we'll do Crestview, and we'll start on Hanley, and then maybe next year our plan is to continue out Hanley Road and seal coat that road too. So that's the one change that's of note from a couple of meetings ago that I want the board to be aware of.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Questions, concerns, discussion?
Sorry, Dean, is the total cost the 350,000 or is it 400,000 with the 50,000 from last year? I couldn't figure out what the total cost was on the.
Yeah, we're aiming for 400,000 because of that extra 50 grand that we have from last year.
Okay.
And that includes a contingency just to make sure in case costs come in high or whatever, that's 10% is in there. And then also the engineering cost for not only me putting the plans together, but also somebody inspecting the work that's going on there. So that's all included in that 400,000. Got
it. I would move to approve and the plans and send to Common Council.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the plans as presented and to move them on to Common Council. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Go tell your daughter happy birthday.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you.
But I was kind of
agenda.
I was hoping we'd get some cake out of this, but
remote, yeah, virtual.
Pretty hard. And we watch you eat some.
Yeah, I don't think you want to do that. It makes
All right.
We'll see you guys later. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay, let's see if we can get back on track. New business. Discussion and possible action to install no parking from here to corner on the west side of 3rd Street Hill. West side of 3rd Street Hill from November 15th to April 1st.
Yeah, so this was brought to my attention by the Public Works foreman. This is that hill that's directly adjacent to the old fire hall. And we're running into some problems with the new parking system. It used to be EMT parking only. And now that the EMS department is gone, we removed the sign. There's still a yellow curb painted for the first 100 feet, but we're getting a lot of cars parking on that west side now that the pay station are active, are implemented, and it's making it very challenging for the plow trucks to maneuver through that stretch, especially on that downhill slope. And we've had a couple of close calls here this last winter, and it was brought to my attention. And what I'd like to pursue is just having that be no parking during the winter months, then open it up for the summer, spring, summer, fall. So like I said, the first 100 feet is already painted yellow. So what I'm proposing is the next 100 feet would be painted yellow as well. So we'd be losing approximately 5 spots there for the winter months. And it's kind of hard to see there on the aerial, but there is a jog. The center line kind of makes a jog, and we would go to that spot. So in total, we would lose five stalls for the winter months.
I think it makes sense, Mike. My only question on this one is the November 15th, April 1st. Do you want to back it up to like a November 1st, the way we can get snow in October here, like we did this year? I mean, are you comfortable with that, or do you want to push it back to April 15th? Or I don't know about if that helps you.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So we actually have the same signs on Elm Street, just off a second, and they're actually signed November 15th to March 1st, November 15th to March 15th. So they actually narrowed the window.
Oh.
So what I would just suggest is just mirroring what that has at that site.
Okay. I think it's a good idea. It makes sense, and I don't think we're sacrificing too many spots. And I think just for the safety, it makes sense. So I would move to approve with the adaptation of the dates November 15th through March 15th.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to create the no parking areas on 3rd Street Hill as detailed. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Yeah, I was just driving through there 2 days ago and noticed how far down the cars are parking, and I had to make a swerve over there, and their cars on the other side. And said, well, that's kind of narrow there. So I was glad it was not an icy day.
Yeah.
So good.
All right. And then item A under old business, Jim, is our last agenda item for the night.
Yeah, this doesn't work.
Okay, I got it here.
That's,
So this is discussion and possible action to amend the alleyway assessment policy. So this is a carryover from, we've been discussing this for the last couple of meetings.
Yeah.
But before we go into the assessment to the issue sheet, I did rewrite it, but Sarah, I did reach out to Mike Johnson about vacating those alleys that we had talked about. And his comment was, unless the property owner wants to vacate the alley, he would find it difficult to force that upon an adjacent property owner to all of a sudden have to maintain that area. And he said for the, a dozen times that we plow it, at a total probably, 3-4 hours throughout the year, how much of a headache do you want to pursue is what he questioned it as. And I'm like, well, that's a good point. So I'm just, bringing that back to the board. It is, you do run into some situations where people don't want to have that extra space, just because, like I said, they have to maintain it. And it's not, we still have easements for our infrastructure, so it's not technically theirs. They still have easements over it. So I just wanted to bring that forward. Do you have any initial reactions to that?
I guess my only reaction then would be, when it comes time that particular alley is up for, reconstruction or repavement, maybe then, and I think you said there was only maybe 2 or 3 that might be really able to be vacated at all. So if those, get into a state of such disrepair that we can no longer even feasibly plow them because they're going to get bad, right? I mean, or are we going to keep them on our maintenance list? I mean, it seems so low priority on our budget that they're not going to get maintained. They're already probably in poor condition. And as they continue to deteriorate, maybe when it comes time to actually, have to force them into a reconstruction situation where then the property owners would have to pay 25%, maybe then is the time, to talk to them about vacating. And I think it's, if no one's using it, it should be given back to the property owners that are adjacent to it. And if it makes sense at all.
And 3 out of the 4 that were identified are crushed rock. So there's only one that's asphalt right now. So like you said, maybe that's time to, if when we do have plans to pave it, or, maybe they don't want to pave, maybe they want to maybe that's when we have that conversation with them.
No, something to keep in mind.
Okay.
So then the consideration of turning a decrepit alleyway back over to a homeowner, giving it to them in poor condition is kind of a shaky. So
yeah. So it's just food for thought. I said, maybe we'll address it in the future. Like Sarah said, when those alleys do become in disrepair that they need to have repairs done, then we'll have those conversations with those property owners. So, but as it pertains to the assessment policy, after our discussion at the last month's meeting, I did amend the residential district language. The commercial district language is the same. In the residential side, I had put in there that any new construction is the same, so it's 100% assessed. When the alley is, and when alley repaving is necessary, city shall cover 100% by the city. When alley reconstruction is necessary, it would be the same cost share as we currently have, which would be 50, 25, 25. And so examples of a reconstruction project would be if there's storm sewer lines that need to be replaced, if there's sanitary lines that need to be replaced, if there's a situation where we need to have some extra drainage for an alley that we have to curb one side or the other to get the water to channel out to the road, that would be considered a reconstruction. So those are examples. Now just a mill, basically mill and overlay with a fresh, lift of pavement would be a repaving, and that's what we would pay for. So it would it would make Dean's and my jobs a lot easier as we try to implement this alley, repaving project that we're trying to get momentum on. But yet still keep the homeowner responsible that, if it is a reconstruction or if it is a new alley that's being requested or installed, that they have skin in the game. So I think it's a good balance there.
Mm-hmm. I like it too, because it's, for the same reasons. And it gives you the freedom to repave if you need to, which doesn't sound like it's really tremendously expensive, right? But if you get to the expensive one, then it shares the cost. So I think it makes total sense, Mike.
Yeah, the only thing I would think about is whether defining what repaving is as being mill and overlay.
Okay.
In parentheses behind it, that clarifies it for me. So
right.
Any homeowner reading that might say, well, what's repaving? Has no definition for them. Like that's taking it all the way down. And
okay, I can specify that.
I would move to approve amending the Alleyway assessment policy for residential districts with the caveat that Jim's suggesting.
And I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to amend the alleyway paving, alleyway maintenance. What do we call this? The alleyway assessment policy.
Assessment policy.
As written.
For residential districts, yeah.
For residential districts, thank you.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, what do we got next, guys?
Project update. So I just have a couple real quick ones here. Obviously, the big one is the bid opening for the Highway 35 project. Our 2nd Street project is happening tomorrow. As much as we've tried to get in and sit in on it or zoom in on it, the state is, they won't let us. So as soon as we get the numbers back from them, we'll absolutely discuss them. And our hope is that, by whether it's Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday, we'll have those numbers and we can discuss them at the council meeting on Monday. So that's the first thing. Second thing is a bit of good news. About a year ago, the city applied for a sweepings exemption through the DNR to use our street sweeping piles as fill material for projects or just general fill. And that was approved here late last week. So that's really good news because we've been stockpiling since 2017 just because the location that we used to haul our sweeping materials to, the landfill basically closed up. So we were no longer to haul them. So we just kind of been stockpiling, hoping that a solution would come, and lo and behold, we got our sweepings exemption. So now we're able to basically rent a screener. We screen all the garbage out of the material, and then it's tested. Every 200 yards, that screen has to get tested and reported, and then we're able to use that as fill material. I already have a location at the Rod and Gun Club, which is just right nearby there, just to kind of get just a purge right now because we just have an abundance. We probably have about 2,500 yards of material. So there will be some stipulations on where the fill can be used. It can't be used for like road construction projects. So it's general fill. So that's kind of why we have to be selective of where we use it. But it's good news that we're able to do this. So
Excellent. Nice.
and that's all I got.
Mike, on that, once it's used as fill, does that area rejuvenate? Does it eventually get topsoil and grow anything, or is it just going to be dirt?
So as part of the permit or part of the exemption is when we use the fill material, we have to have at least 2 feet of clean fill that cap the street sweepings.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to see on the agenda for next time? I think there will obviously the Highway 35 will be on the agenda, but other than that,
I just have a question maybe for Mike for as we get into summer with like 11th Street and you know, between say Wisconsin and kind of up toward Taco John's toward the bridge there's a you know, a bike path that's specified and for walking, but a lot of those I guess what I'm trying to ask is there a way we could make that safer or something for like pedestrians and bicyclists? Just because I've got a couple comments from people in the neighborhood about that, but I don't know if that's something we can look at. I don't know if that's next meeting or the meeting after or something, or if you want to take a look at it or something and just make a note of it or something and come back. What happens is some of those houses have hills, and so it's like basically if you're a walking pedestrian, kid or whatever, you can't really use that grass area. So I'm just wondering, I don't know if there's like a temporary, I don't know what it would be, orange and white something. I don't know what you put out there, but you would be more familiar with that kind of stuff. So maybe just a look at maybe a safety thing, if there's any way to beef that up on 11th Street there.
Yep.
there's a lot of different kinds of barriers and diversion things out now that weren't there 5 years ago. So it may be something that's less ugly and not cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I just don't know what's available. So maybe if Mike could be looking at it, or if there's some options or something, we can talk about it next time. Or maybe even like if April's a big meeting, we can wait another month too. But I just want to try to see before summer sometime. So
okay, yeah, I'll get a couple different options and put a price tag to them.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing no other business.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.